Okay, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us on our freezer meal workshop. My name is Sheri Gibson, for those that don't know. Tonight we are going to make 4 freezer meals, and I'm going to share with you how I would do that virtually or in a home party. And you can make 4 meals with me tonight too, or what you can do is you can take the recipes and the ingredients and everything I give you and make them, and then you're going to have some freezer meals in your freezer. So we're going to talk about a little bit of things before we get going on a freezer meal. I'm just going to tidy up my space here. So the most important thing from a freezer meal party is that it really gets your guests, your host, virtually, maybe not quite as much, but hands-on with Tupperware. And when we're using that Tupperware and you're touching it and you're learning how to use it and you're using it, you want it more because, well, simply know how it works. So that is why I love freezer meal workshops, is because you're showing people how to cook in the kitchen, how Tupperware truly saves us a lot of time, a lot of money, cooking, meal prepping, storage, saving money with produce in the things like Fridge Smart. So I have everything out, okay? So before I get into how I would run a freezer meal workshop in person or virtually, and I'll kind of dive into a little bit of how to do both. One of the biggest resources I love is this cookbook here. And this cookbook is where I think all of my recipes actually came from. And this is a whole book of slow cooker meals. Of course, I've taken them and Tupperized them so that you can cook them in the pressure cooker. But all of the meals we make, if you don't have the pressure cooker, you can slow cook it in the snail slow cooker, which is fine too. It's just as tasty, but they're all adapted to cook in the pressure cooker. So there in here is like chicken recipes, pork, seafood, vegetarian, and beef. What I love about the recipes in here is they're little ingredients, super easy to make, mix it all together, and you got yourself a freezer meal. So this book, I just got it on Amazon, and you can too if you would like, but I will post and share the recipes for you if you don't have them already. But this is where they came from, and then I just took them and Tupperized it. So this is the resource of where I get all of my freezer meal workshop recipes from, is this resource here. So I'll set that aside. Okay, so let's talk about how we would do a freezer meal workshop. So the first thing is there's a lot of behind the scene things that happen with a workshop like this when I'm doing it for a guest. So let's say I have Susie, who is wanting to do a freezer meal workshop. Right now, we would be doing it virtually. And what we would do is we would do the same type of format, but everybody would be cooking at home with me. So what I would be doing is I send out a shopping list for them so they know exactly what it is, their meat, their produce, their dairy, any pastas or anything like that, everything that they would need to make all 5 of their meals. I would send that to them maybe a week or 2 in advance so that they can be prepared and shopped. I would let them know what Tupperware we are going to be using. If they have it in their home, they can pull it out. If they don't, they can of course substitute for what they have at home. If this was in person at a station, I would have everything laid out for them to use. But because we would be doing it virtually like this, I would send out the recipes, the shopping list, materials that we're going to be using. So they can have all of that prepared ahead of time. So certain things that they want ahead of time is, first and most importantly, is the shopping list, so they know what food they need, and the material list. And then I don't share the recipes before the night of the event, because I don't want people to go and make and try these recipes before the event with us, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose. So very important things that I would share with them to have is things like, the large or the medium deep freezer containers so that they can put their meals in here. This is typically what I make all of my freezer meals in, is this size, just because I find the portion size for a family of 4 fits in here. But if they don't have that, or they don't want to invest in these ahead of time, they can use, I'm going to say the bad word, Ziploc bags or like metal tins. Of course, they don't keep them as fresh as long. But what I do like to do is have the Facebook party group set up and let them know some of the things like this that they can purchase ahead of time, because that's going to give their host So you're doing it like a typical party that's going to give their host credits too. So let's say we have Sam in the party and she's like, you know what, I want to get 5 of these, so I have them ready to go for the party. Of course, now this takes some planning, so it's shipped in time as well. And she would order those through her host, and then the host gets credit for it. But here's the fun part. Everybody that joins the party, the Freezer Meal Workshop party, because it's set up like a party, they pay a fee of $50. So typically if it was in person, I charge about $125, and that's because I grocery shop everything for them. Virtually, I can't do that. So I charge a $50 fee, and what that is that's just kind of covering, the paper, my time a little bit, and then they're going to get a $30 credit shopping spree for their host. So then they're going to see everything that we use through the Freezer Meal Workshop, and they can use that after the party, or they can use that ahead of the party if they want to get some of the materials that they know they're going to need. So kind of a lot, I guess, to take in right now, but so let me break that down again. So what's going to happen is they're going to get the material list, the shopping list ahead of time, and if they would like to purchase some of the materials ahead of time, they may do so, because I'm going to set that party and open it up well before, so that stuff can be shipped here in time, or they can use it after the party to purchase some of the things that they saw from our making our recipes. Both go towards the host rewards. The retail value goes towards the host rewards for the host. So I hope I'm kind of clarifying that makes sense. So basically it's like a party. Everybody submits the orders to me. I have a host who's hosting this. They're going to get the host credits. They're going to do it all the same, but instead of me doing posts and lives and live demos in a party, we're cooking together. And I absolutely love freezer meal parties. So let's get into it a little bit of what it looks like. So I have 4 stations set up currently in my house right now. I have the small one right here because sweet and sour chicken is minimal supply. So we're gonna start with that. Then I have our meatloaf one. And then back over there, I have our chicken lime fajitas. And behind me, I have a Mongolia beef, or beef and broccoli is another word for it as well. And I have everything out, all my materials, all of my ingredients, everything ready to go, so that I can do some quick swaps tonight to change up for our recipes of what it is we're going to do. So just before the party starts, I, of course, would share the Zoom link just like I did tonight. And everybody can jump on with me. We'll introduce ourselves. We'll have some fun with it. We'll play maybe a icebreaker game to get started. And then we're going to start with the first recipe. And I would show them the first recipe and they could screenshot that. So here you are. This is, and I'm getting a little bit of reflection there from my light on my tripod. Sorry about that. But you could take that, screenshot it. But what I also do after the party is I would send out an email thanking them for joining with the actual PDF version of this. So it's a good version for them to print out, because I want them to have a good quality copy of the recipe. Now, all I did for the recipe is I made it up in Microsoft Word, the title, the prep time, the cook time, how many it serves, ingredients, the preparation, cooking instructions. But this is my favorite part on the side. I have what Tupperware materials we're going to need. I'm a very visual person. I like being able to look at that recipe and here's what I need for materials. Here's what I need for ingredients. Here's how I cook it. Okay, so I would send out a little essential package at the end, thanking them for coming. It would have, the recipes. It would have the cooking instructions. I would also send out like the current sales flyer, the current host offers, and the current say yes or the welcome bonus as well. It's just all of the good things that I typically would put together in a host package. That's what I'm going to send out everyone after the party, so that they have all the resources. That's what I print out and give everyone at an actual in-person party, is they get all of those resources. So I do the same thing virtually, but they're getting an email from me instead of a little package to leave home with their bag of food, okay? So I have that, and that sits at every station. So at every station, I would have my recipe that I have all of my Tupperware supplies that I need. Basically, everybody can go up to that station and they follow the recipe and they make it in their own container or in a Ziploc bag. So let's make our first recipe together. And along the way, I'll share some more tips and tricks and stuff I do with you, but let's kick it off and make the first recipe. So the first recipe is sweet and sour chicken. This one is so delicious, so quick, and so easy. I love it. I'm just using frozen chicken breast because I ran downstairs and took some out of our large thing of chicken breast and put them in here for our freezer meal. So I just have to take this out for supper and put it into the pressure cooker. So I have 3 frozen chicken breasts in here. You can do 2, you can do 4, you can double the servings. It all depends on what you need for your family. And I also always in a party say that too. The recipe is the recipe, but you're going to change it for what your family likes. So if your family doesn't like pineapples, don't put pineapples in here. For our fajitas, if you don't like cilantro, don't put cilantro on, right? So it's for you to eat, so you can adapt it as you wish. So 3 chicken breasts, a can of pineapple, and I forgot these, so I was just wondering if my husband bought the kind that were chopped or not. So I am using the Tupperware can opener to put in the pineapple in here. And I'm actually going to put in the juice as well, just because it'll marinate it a little bit when it's thawing out before I cook it. So to open the can opener, you obviously saw me do the moves there, but you open the legs and then there's a lip on the front. You hook that on the front, close it, and I'm just going to, I can't do it up in the air. Oh, maybe I didn't go all the way around. Okay, let's try that again. Maybe I was trying to be too fancy. Maybe my can opener's not working. Oh, there we go. Okay, I didn't go all the way around, so it's part of the problem. So it is just diced pineapples. I'm just going to top that all over my chicken, put that away for recycling. Now, when this thaws, because I have frozen chicken breast, I'm gonna mix it in a little bit better just before I go and cook it. It is a half a cup of barbecue sauce. So I have 3 chicken breasts, a can of pineapples. I dumped the juice right in as well. If you don't want the juice, you don't have to. I have Sweet Baby Ray barbecue sauce, the best barbecue sauce. Putting that in, and it is a half a cup. Oh, that's a third. Let's do a half a cup of barbecue sauce. And again, I'm going to mix it in a little bit now, and then I'll mix it in and give it a good stir just before I go and I cook it when we make this. So good. What I love about the freezer meal workshops, and I've probably said this, and I'll probably say this lots through this whole training, is allowing people to touch and use the can opener, like how slick when they open up a can that they see that, oh, the edges aren't sharp, and you know they get to touch that. They get to see how slick and easy the squeeze it bottles are, right? So I love that people can get and see, not just see me make it, but when they're using it in person, or if they have it at home virtually, they get to see how to really use that. Okay, so this recipe is so simple, you guys. So it is 3 chicken breasts. It says chopped. I can chop mine or shred it is the word I was looking for when I cook it. Can of pineapple, half a cup of barbecue sauce, and half a cup of chicken broth. I forgot to put that on the edited version of the recipe. Now, that you can add at your own discretion. I add it in when I cook it. The reason for that is I want to have some liquid in the pressure cooker when I go to cook this. Because I have the pineapple juice in here, I probably won't need maybe a quarter cup of chicken broth I would add in here. But because I put it in with the pineapple juice, I probably don't really need to add liquid. I would assess that when I go to cook it in the pressure cooker. And you know what? You can cook it in the slow cooker for 6 to 8 hours or 20 minutes in the pressure cooker. So I didn't cube it up like the recipe said, because what I do is I will take this out one night for supper, put it into the pressure cooker, and then I'm going to shred it. To shred it, you could throw it in the Power Chef, or I have the Tupperware claw handles. And I pull it apart that way. And that is a simple, easy supper. You can make it with some rice. You can make a salad. You can choose the side that you like. You can do some steamed vegetables in the smart multi-cooker. But like, I have a supper ready to go, you guys. And that was so fast and so easy. This is such an easy recipe. So then we put the lid on, okay? Then I have a meal done. But here is my favorite part. In all of my recipes, at the back, if I can get one out here, I have a label. So I'm going to come close so you can zoom in so you guys can see that I have a label with it, what it is, the cooking instructions on there, and then an idea of what you can make for the side. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to pop one on the top, and I'm going to pop one on the front. Now, the reason I'm popping the one on the front too is when I have my freezer, we have a stand-up freezer. I have a full freezer of like freezer meals and frozen meat and stuff. They stack in the freezer. I can look in my freezer and I look at the front. I'm like, yeah, let's cook that tonight. So that's why I put one on the top and one on the side, not necessary. The other option is that you can put a piece of like Scotch tape there and write on it with Sharpie. Don't write in the container, write on it. You can use chalk markers, lots of ways to label it, but I like to have the cooking instructions on it for my guests when they take these home so that when they can remember how to cook them. So what I would suggest for doing this virtually is you could send this out in a PDF document and they can print all of their 5. So you could put the 5 you're making on a size label and you could send that to them. If they don't want to print it on a label, that's fine. They could cut it out and tape it onto their container or tape it onto their bag or write it on their bag. But I like to have everything labeled in the freezer so I know what I'm making, when I'm making it, what's in there. You know, I could probably even like to put the date on this for when it was in there. And that's just what I like to do to keep organized in my freezer. So there you have it. We already have one meal ready. So I'm going to set that aside. And we are going to start meal number 2. So meal number 2 is become a kind of a family favorite as well. And that is meatloaf. So I did a little substitution. I switched the graham crackers for just regular crackers, just because we didn't have any graham crackers in the house, and we had regular crackers. So I did the little switch with all, and it is super easy. So a couple of ways to make a meatloaf as a freezer meal is you can have and make it here in the Ultra Pro pan, because this is freezer safe. I'm going to put the lid on it, and this can go in the freezer, and then it can go in the oven, and it can go in the microwave. So that is one way to do it. The other option, of course, not as good, is to make it in a Ziploc bag. I keep like frowning when I say that, just because I don't like to waste the plastic like that if I don't have to. But make it in a Ziploc bag, squish it down flat in the Ziploc bag. When you go to make it, you're going to have to let that thaw out and then put it into your baking pan. Or the third way you could do it is you can buy the metal loaf pans, like the disposable ones, and you could make it in there and freeze it. You'd have to cover it with tin foil or something. Those 2 options, I mean, they're great. They'll be fine. I like it in here because I can take it out. It's ready to go and it cooks, and cooking in the Ultra Pro is unbelievable. I used to not liking making meatloaf in the Ultra Pro pan, or not in the Ultra Pro pan, in the metal one, because the sauce that I make with my meatloaf, it like crusted on a glass cookware, and it was so hard to clean, but not in these. And like, you can see me waving this around as I'm talking about it. It is so lightweight, you guys. So I'm going to mix and make ours into here. If you don't have that, that's okay. It doesn't have to go in there. So I have 2 pounds of ground meat, and that is just because the Ultra Pro pan is bigger than a regular pan. Okay, so I just have that in here. I'm just going to mix that up. Now, when I'm doing this as an in-person event, I have everybody's meat portioned off already for them. So I would like weigh it, measure it ahead of time, and it's all in a Ziploc bag ready for them, or all in their own container ahead of time. so that everybody's getting the same amount of meat. I don't want one person taking 6 chicken breasts and then one person gets 2, right? So I have the meat is one of the things that I would divide up ahead of time at an in-person event. But because it's virtual, they can use as much meat as they want for their family. So this one is, I don't actually make the topping on it until I go to cook it, but this is my meat, and I'm going to add in 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of ketchup. Just need a cloth. And the reason I like the ketchup, I'm gonna actually hold off on the ketchup. The reason I like the ketchup in the meatloaf, you guys, is just something that I've added in for a long time, is it just seems to keep it moist while you're cooking it. But before we do that, this is one of my favorite things for people to do in the supersonic choppers is chop up the crackers. So we're gonna do that here together. I'm not gonna talk during because it's loud. But like a few pulls and like check that out, right? So you can get your own like breadcrumbs essentially ready to go for it. I'm going to dump that in. It's good to go. 1/2 cup of milk. I'm going to dump that in after. I'm just going to kind of give a little beat to the eggs on the side here. Start slowly mixing it in. Now, I also sometimes will add like some seasonings of, I don't know, I have a chipotle mango seasoning that we really like, or like oregano. You can add any kind of spices to give it some bit more flavor if you like. I mean, you're in your kitchen, you can grab whatever you like to add to it. I'm just gonna kind of give it a quick mix there. You can also put oats in this and do oats instead of crackers. You can do the graham crackers. Lots of substitutions that you can make if you need it gluten-free. I don't know that plan very well, but maybe just don't put any of the crackers or anything in, I guess. Okay, and then it's a 1/2 cup of milk. And again, this just really helps keep it moist. Just gonna do a little bit less than that. A 1/4 cup of ketchup. I'm just gonna measure with my heart for this because my 1/4 cup is missing over there. Oh, I threw it in the sink from the barbecue, that's why. So then you just kind of mix it all in. You can add the salt. I am not going to add any more salt to it, just again, because we can adapt the recipes to what we like. I don't like to cook with a lot of salt, so I'm not going to add that in. And like, again, we almost have a second meal made. So again, while doing this virtually, I would have it so that we can see everyone's screen cooking together, and we can, have like maybe a challenge, like who's going to mix it first, what kind of containers you're making it in and why, how you're going to cook it, just keeping the audience that you're cooking with engaged, because if we're all in person doing it, we'd be maybe sipping on some wine, and I've had lots of like funny stories from like a group of friends gathering. So we just want to keep that fun alive when we're doing it virtually as well. So I think I've got all of the ingredients. I've got the beef, the crackers, onion. Good thing I reread. So I love when guests try this virtually, or if I was doing this virtually and a lot of my guests that were in this freezer meal workshop didn't have the choppers and they had to cut it with a knife. I am competitive in nature, so I'd be like, okay, you guys have knives, I have this, on your market set, go, let's chop. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm done, who's still chopping, right? Just to show them that like, this is what, I'm gonna just chop it. I want them a little bit finer. Just to show them like, what, this is why meal prepping and cooking with Tupperware is so amazing, because I save so much time in the kitchen from using like the choppers, especially because I'm not standing here for hours chopping and prepping. Like that's a real fact. So I'm gonna mix in that onion that I almost forgot. And like, I love it, you know, no crying, cutting onions, because that's not allowed in our house. And I am going to grab some seasoning just to put into it. I'm just gonna grab a chipotle mango, just because we really like this one. Again, it's a spice. Measure it with your heart. And I always say that to like guests too, like if it's a seasoning or, you know, something that they like in a recipe and they want it a little bit stronger and it's like a fair game ingredient, like a spice, you can add more. But like if it's a can of pineapples and you really love pineapples, you can only add 1 can of pineapple because there's 1 per person per recipe. But if you'd like to go home and add that to your recipe, I mean, by all means, right? So I just like to have that out, but because everybody's cooking at home for the virtual version, they can do as they wish. Okay, I think we've got everything now. So I'm just going to put it into the Ultra Pro, and you're going to see that this is why I added in a bigger batch, or I added in 2 pounds of meat instead of typically 1. So then I actually don't put the sauce on it on top until I go to cook it. And I actually, here's a little trick. This is just me cooking meatloaf the way that our family likes it, is I actually let it cook for a little bit first, drain out the grease from it, then put the sauce on. Otherwise, it'll go like run away and you don't have any of that delicious caramelized sauce on top. So that's just what I like to do. You can do what works for you. And again, I don't have the lid out here, but I have the sticker. I'm going to put it on the front, and then I will put it on the lid, just like the other one. Then I will also give, you know, of course, all of you that are making it with me, some time to have something to label it with, or you can label it afterwards with a piece of tape and put it on. You can put a label on it, you can cut out a piece of paper and tape it on. I just like to have it labeled in the freezer so that when you're looking in the freezer, you know what meals you got left and you know what's in there. Okay, so again, boom. This is awesome. We got 2 meals done. That is awesome. So good job, guys. We got 2. We're gonna move on to number 3. Just gonna move my workspace here. Now, typically, I wouldn't have to clean my space, but because my camera angle is set up here, I'm going to stay within this range for you. So I'm just going to do a quick switcheroo. And up next, we're going to do the Mongolia beef. So if you're making it with me or you're wanting to know more about it, that's what I'm grabbing next. So I guess this is a tip I haven't talked about yet. So I'm going to talk about that next. This is one of our family favorites. We all, kids approved. Love, love, love this recipe. And it's super simple. So here is another station. So typically I would say, okay, it's time to rotate, go to your next station. You would come and everything's laid out again like this. One thing I like to have at an in-person cooking party is I just kept a bag from some of the produce that I bought at the store. And I like to keep that at the station because then they have something to throw any kind of, you know, peels off the onions, any ends of broccoli. Then it's just a quicker and easier cleanup. And another thing that you can also do is, you've seen them right now, but I didn't talk about it, is just the plastic sleeves on the recipe, because I don't know if you're like me when you're cooking, but you can easily spill on that and then wipe it away because it's got the plastic cover on it. Excuse me. So just a couple of tips and tricks that I like to have it for easier cleanup and an easier setup. So again, I have a container ready to go. You can grab a Ziploc bag for this recipe or a container that you have that's a freezer container. But let's do it. Let's make meal number 3. So now, I cheated a little bit on this one because I already had stew beef bought and put in a freezer container. And instead of, you know, having 2 containers to take out, it's still a little bit frozen because that's how it was. You can see how my husband labeled this one. It's just a piece of Scotch tape and he wrote stew beef on it. Oh, he failed to write on one side, but he got it on the other, so that's awesome. And it's just, yeah, Scotch tape stays on well, it comes off well, and we just write on top of it with Sharpie. So I'm just going to take that and dump it into our other container here. Or if you have the fresh meat, you can go ahead and do that too. So it's 2 teaspoons of oil. I'm sorry that I don't have that out. I grabbed a half a teaspoon, so I'm going to do 4. Now, again, it's for you in your house. Measure with your heart if you wish. So then it is an onion slice. I'm going to actually chop it up in the chopper for the purpose of, you know, I want people to be trying this, or again, I want to be competitive for those at home saying, okay, let's chop onions again. Who's gonna win, right? So just getting your people engaged with the recipes. You can take a break. So we've made 2 recipes. I can say, okay, now we're gonna take a break and play a game between. What I could do in a real one is I could be cooking one right now. So let's say those meatballs recipe, I'd be having a meatball recipe cooking right now. It's in the pressure cooker. It's ready. I can come out and show them what does that meal look like cooked in the pressure cooker, talk about the features of the pressure cooker and how cooking in 20 minutes is way better than 6 to 8 hours in the slow cooker. So I can do that in between 2 recipes. A game, we could talk about the host could talk about her wish list, so many things to do to kind of engage everyone in between, and then move on to recipe 4. So there's that as well. So let's chop and see who's gonna win. The reason I'm chopping them instead of slicing them like the recipe says is if I have littles that don't like onions, but if they don't know they're there, they'll eat them. So that's why I'm chopping them. They'll eat the broccoli, but the onions are the problem. So we are going to put the onions in here. I'm super excited, you guys, because now I literally am going to have my entire week next week, like meal planned and cooked and done. And I have to do like no cooking next week. So that's awesome. Okay, a half a cup of soy sauce. And again, because my meat is frozen, when I go to take this one out of the freezer to make it in the pressure cooker, I'm just going to stir in the ingredients a little bit better, but it all freezes really, really well. Splatter in there. That is the soy sauce. We got the onions. Oh, we need to do the garlic. So I am going to use the garlic press for that. I love the garlic press for a couple of reasons, because this gadget where the garlic goes in at is flips up and it makes it so easy to clean. I grab the tumbler brush and I clean it on there. And you can also put it underneath. I have them ready to go though, but there's a little picture of a garlic right there. Excuse me. You can put it there, push this down and squeeze it. And it actually will like squeeze it so that you can easily peel off the garlic peel. Love that. But I'm going to put them in here and I'm going to mince them into here. And we've got the garlic. I mean, I probably would actually add a little bit more than this. Depends how much, again, for you at home, how much you would like. Okay, and a half a cup of water. So we got the soy sauce. We've got the garlic, we've got the water, a half a cup of brown sugar. I love leaving this out at a party and the guests grabbing their brown sugar right out of the modular mate, because how tight this seal is, how airtight it keeps it, how fresh it keeps it. I've had people ask me like, oh, you don't have a sugar brown buddy in here, whatever they're called. I'm like, no. They're like, you don't have any bread in here and it's this fresh. And like, I'll see people doing this, you guys, in the party going like, it's so fresh in here. And it truly is, because that is how amazing our modular meats are. So I love having this sitting out at the station for them to measure their brown sugar from. So it is a half a cup. I have a third cup here. That's okay. We have to give that a little mix. I just like to keep the scoop in there. And then we're going to do a tablespoon of ginger. Or was it a teaspoon? So it is, sorry, a teaspoon of ginger. I'm just going to take the top of the zestin press, and I'm just going to mince that right into the, whoopsies. Don't do what Sheri just did. Don't drop it in there. Mince it right into there, and I'm just going to go with what we typically like. We like ginger, so I'm going to probably add a little bit more, and then we're going to add a half a cup of hoisin sauce, and then I'm going to toss the broccoli in, and we have recipe number 3. Like, that is what is so awesome about making freezer meals, you guys, is how quick it truly is when you have all the ingredients and the recipe, and then like you're meal prepped and planned for the week. So, and people are going to see in a virtual one, like how easy it is with having the proper tools in your kitchen to, oopsies, I've done that twice now, how easy it is to then make quick and easy, healthy, delicious meals for your family. So I love freezer meal workshops. I miss them in person. I know we're gonna get there again one day soon. Oopsies. Okay, 3 times I've dropped the ginger into the recipe here, but that's okay. So it comes out the bottom when I'm using the top, and I'm just tapping it so it falls off the bottom there. I'm just, tapping it off of that into there. I hope you can see that okay. So again, I'm not doing the amount it says, I'm just doing kind of what we like. Okay, that's probably good. Then it is a half a cup of hoisin sauce. So this is what we use, just kind of the kind we like in our house. And give it a stir, and like good to go. I mean, I could put that hoisin sauce in a squeeze bottle to take and label it. Again, I'm surprised it's like one of the only things that's not in a squeeze it bottle in our fridge, but it's not. So I'm just kind of mixing it in because our beef was frozen in here and it's splattering everywhere. I'm gonna make a mess. Then the broccoli. So it says 2 cups of broccoli. Again, put as much broccoli in as you wish. When broccoli cooks, it is going to go down a bit. So probably when I make this, maybe the pressure cooker, if we have extra broccoli in the fridge that I need to cook up that day, I would all toss that in too. And it's good to go. So this is, again, all the meals are 20 minutes in the pressure cooker, except for the meatloaf. I didn't say the time on that, but you can check the recipe for how long to cook that one for. That is a little bit longer because you're not cooking that in the pressure cooker. But again, this can be 6 to 8 hours on low in the slow cooker or 20 minutes in the pressure cooker. And we've got a third meal made. So again, go to the back. I've got my labels, and I, of course, during the virtual one would give my people some time to get theirs ready on there, or they can do that afterwards. Oops, upside down. And I'll just show you the cooking instructions for that I just have on the side. And that, you guys, is 3 meals made. And that is why I love using Tupperware to meal prep. I am a meal prepper. I am a meal planner. I find when we don't have freezer meals or ready, or we don't meal plan for the month and then the week, we are off track. And then we're just like, what is for supper tonight? And we're like, oh, we could go downstairs and see what's a freezer meal. But what I do, a little behind the scenes on how I meal prep, because that question's been asked lots too, is I take out a notebook and I write all the dates for the month, and we write a meal for supper in there. Yeah, January, 31 days, 31 meals. And then I will do the grocery shop for the month. Of course, in between, I'm going to have to stock up on the fresh produce. And then I take that by the week, and I put it onto our board in our kitchen, and we have Monday to Sunday, what is each week for supper. And it's as simple sometimes as going downstairs and taking one of these guys out of the fridge and or the freezer. I find we're saving money on groceries because we're not buying as much. We're keeping things fresher longer. And a lot of time is saved by that because I have meals ready to go. We have a plan ready to go. Our grocery shop is ready to go. I love that system that we have developed in our house, and everybody just knows our system. So if you want more about that, I can share more about that, but that's almost like another training. But meal number 3 is done. So let's move on to number 4. And number 4 is our lime chicken fajitas. So I kind of got a mess going on the here. Just grabbing a cloth to kind of clean this up. I'm going to move recipes in between. So thanks for bearing with me as we do a little transition. If you need to take a little break and go to the washroom or grab a drink or something right now, you can go ahead and do that because we are going to be switching over here. So again, if this was live or something, I might just pick up my camera and move it to a new location, but I have a good setup right now and I don't want to wreck that. So we are just going to stay with what we got here. Again, I have some stuff ready to go, and I would let my guests know from the party that they should have their stuff ready to go too, just so that we are all on the same page. Now I know this is kind of a quick in a nutshell training. If this was more of a do it with in a party, I would give them a little bit more time to prep, okay? So this is one of our favorites. This is either you add cilantro or you don't. We love it with cilantro and we can't eat it without, or we're like, oh, it's missing something and it doesn't taste as good. And I'll give you that tip at the end of the recipe. So again, I'm just tossing in some chicken breast that I should have cut ahead of time, and I didn't. So I'm just going to have to cut these into slices quickly, you guys. So bear with me for an extra 2 minutes to just get these guys cut. I typically would use the large chef knife, or the chef knife, I guess you could just call it. I don't have to call it large, to slice them up. But for some reason, that's not around right now. So I am going to just slice these bad boys up quick. I just am doing it into, I don't know, long little skinny pieces, just because again, that's what we like. And you do what you like, right? You're gonna eat it, it's for your family. If you don't like it like that, then don't have to make it like that, right? Just being picky with cutting that out. And if you guys have any questions, or if you're wondering, I mentioned something and you're wondering more about it, you can just leave it in the comments under the video, and I'll be happy to come back and answer those at the end. I just can't see the comments when I'm cooking. Okay. If you haven't used our knives, like Game Changer, and 100% has been approved by my husband. He loves our knives, and he is a hunter and fisherman, and he loves our knives because he uses them for wild meat all the time, and they're that amazing that they cut that. And he actually doesn't bring his hunter fillet knives or anything like that anymore, because there is we have a Tupperware fillet knife, and these knives he just uses them. Like, I'm cutting through this chicken, you guys, so easily. So I only have 2 chicken breasts for this recipe. You can do 3, and 3 is about a serving for 4 in this recipe. The reason I only do 2 is typically our girls, well, I shouldn't say that girls, I should say maybe one, doesn't really like it, and it's just because there's peppers and onions. The other will eat it and they'll eat the chicken. But this is typically a recipe that my husband and I like more than the girls currently. And that's okay. Just gonna wash off the chicken there. And that was pretty, I hope not too painful to wait. So let's get this out of the way and we're gonna get going on the rest of this recipe. And that is number 4. Okay, so we've got the chicken breast. Now, if this was live and people were doing this one, I would not cut up the chicken breast ahead of time. I would have them ready to go and they could slice it, dice it, chop it, ever how they wish for theirs. I wouldn't do that part. I would have the meat ready, but I wouldn't do the part that goes as far as cutting it. Okay, let's get our tablespoon and teaspoon ready. I'm gonna grab a clean one. I keep only finding a half a teaspoon. There we go. We need 2 tablespoons of chili powder. So I've got, you can't tell from the back what they are. I'm just gonna open up the side and get 2 of these. Your tablespoon can actually fit in there. Again, if you don't want it spicy, I'm actually keeping out the red pepper flakes tonight because the oldest will eat it, but not with the spice. Okay, we've got 2 teaspoons of cumin. I love the smell of that. And 2 of paprika. You can take these, you guys. I don't know if they're doing it now, but you can wash them and take these to like the bulk barn and fill them up. So what I do is I just put a little piece of tape on it, wash it, put a little piece of tape on it. When you take it there, they weigh your containers first, write the weight of the container, you fill it up, and then they'll weigh it and charge you after that. And so much money, less waste, and way cheaper on spices. Love that idea. Okay, so I have the chicken breast, the chili powder, the cumin, the paprika. I'm skipping the red pepper flakes tonight just because of the little. We're gonna add in some garlic. And I just need to find my garlic press again. So I have 3 cloves I'm going to put in this time. One's kind of small. Again, if you like garlic, put extra in. If you don't, definitely gives it good flavor. So you're going to want to put that in. I'm just pushing it on the side. We're using a teaspoon, just kind of get it all off of here and into the container. We like garlic. So I probably could even add a little bit more than that. So that's the garlic. 2 peppers. So I just got 2 peppers chopped here, ready to go. If you have 3 and you want the extra veggies, go ahead and add that. Again, all for you. 1 onion. So you could, again, have your onion competition, you know, best out of 3 for everybody that's the party. I've won 2 rounds, you've won none with your knife chopping. Let's go for round 3. Again, just a way to get your customers engaged. But because it's in fajitas, I don't know why, but I like to have the big pieces of onions as opposed to the little. Again, I don't know why, just what we like. Look at the rainbow we're making there. Like, that's awesome. Okay, that's that. And then we need the juice from 2 limes. So I am going to cut my lime here. Not on my cupboard. So here is a little tip. So a lot of times with zesters, people will put it in like this and they think this tip will squeeze it. Don't. Tips touch. Okay, you're always going to remember that with the zest and press out. Okay, so the tip of the line touches the tip of the zester, and you're just going to take it and squeeze it all over the ingredients. It gives it such delicious flavor, and it gets out the last drop. So then it's going to take your lime and turn it inside out, and I just kind of push it up and it flips it inside out. Like, look how amazing that is. I'm going to do the other half. Again, tips touch and squeeze that in there. Oops, some on top. Oopsies. There's a little bit of juice on top. There it is. Okay, again, like the zest and press is so amazing. It squeezes everything out. So it's 2 lines. I'm going to do the second line here. This is a little line. and squeeze it in over top. And then I'll mix this kind of up in there, or if you have it in a bag, you know, give your bag a shake at the end just to kind of mix it in there. But like, I love that I'm not wasting this lime. Like, I'm literally getting out all of the juice. So good. And then we got it, and a tablespoon of honey, my friends. That's a half because my other hole is dirty, so I'm going to do 2. Bada bing, bada boom. That is, my friends, our recipe. Like, so easy and so fast. I love it. I'm just going to take that and stir it up just to kind of get the ingredients in there. Smells so good. I wish you could smell this right now if you're not making one. This is one of our favorites, and I'm going to share with you in a second here how I add our own touch to this recipe that makes it like one of our favorites. We make this one quite a bit. Okay, so let's talk about this recipe a little bit here. Okay, so as a side, we like to make, you can make it like a fajita, but what we like to do is we like to cook some brown rice and then put it in with the mix, roll it up, add some cheese, roll it up, and then we like grill it on our little grill press after this is cooked. And it is so good. And you gotta add the cilantro in on top as well. It just gives it such a good, delicious taste. You can dip your little fajita you made in salsa, guacamole, sour cream. So good. I love it. This is one of our favorite meals. The other little tip and trick you can do is you can cook this alone by itself in the pressure cooker if you're not going to do the rice. But I'll also take this one, put this on one layer of the stack cooker and cook the brown rice as well. Then you're double dipping and you got your meal ready and you can make it. This is one of our favorites. When Doug said, I heard I was making this, I think he put it, no, I was looking at our list. It's not for this week. We're going to bump it till next week. But when he heard I was making this one, he was pretty excited because we haven't had it for a little while. And it's one of our favorites. I love this. So that would be coming close to the end of our workshop with our guests. And what I would do at the end is I would share with them the welcome offer. So I would, share the 2 memberships. So I would talk about the $20 virtual kit or virtual membership of what that comes with. And then I would share what the product bundle one comes with. And I actually would have that set up as the station. So viewing purposes, you can only see me here right now. But if I was doing this as a full party, I would have one station set up as the $149 bundle. And I probably would take you physically with me to that and talk about every item quickly in the bundle and the cost and why our memberships are so incredible. Then I would talk about their $30 credit. So at the end of this, they can use their $30 shopping spree. Because they paid $50, they're getting $30 shopping spree back. And they can let me know their orders by a certain time. And that we would want to help the host get to her wish list level because I'm going to collect that ahead of time. So I'm going to use all of the party tips and tricks that I typically use from a Facebook party or a virtual party and apply that to this. But I'm going to add in the cooking portion together. And I love it because now everybody tonight now has their 4 meals or 5 meals with us. Ahead of time, I can also send to the host and say, here are your options for your meals. Pick your top 5 and we'll make 4. Just because I have, 10 or 15 recipes to pick from, they can pick their recipes that they're going to do for the party. And then it kind of gives them a choice. Again, if they're vegetarian or have any dietary restrictions, they can do that as they need to because they're at home. And then I would leave the party open for a couple of days after I share all that information with them. And that would be the freezer meal workshop. So same as like a cooking social, same as any kind of other party I would do, but I am cooking with them. They're making the meals with me now. Yeah, so that is the freezer meal workshop. I'm just going to pause it here for a minute. I can't on this one. I'm just gonna run to the other device. Okay, you guys, that is my virtual example of virtual freezer meal workshop. If you have any questions, you can leave them below in the comments. And thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have your meals planned and ready to go for next week. Ciao.